at, wow, you can see my dog in the background. Look at her head. Anyway, this week's video. Oh, look, there she goes again. What's up, YouTube? Welcome to this week's video where we'll be having a look at The Last of Us Part 1. This is a re-release of the original Last of Us developed by Naughty Dog Studios. Now, The Last of Us has become incredibly popular recently with the release of the TV series, which could in fact drag a lot of new people into the franchise and playing the game. Now, one thing of note, the remake has been handled by Iron Galaxy, who have been known in the past to not exactly be the best when it comes to optimization. What does that mean for you? Well, if you're a new person to the franchise, you may not exactly have the latest or greatest PC hardware. So how's this game going to run on your PC? We're going to have a look at that today, and we're going to dive into the nuts and bolts of this game to see if we can get the best out of it on the most common hardware setup that people have out there. Is it going to be as bad as these Steam reviews say? Because if you jump on the Steam website right now, you can see that the game has got a mostly negative review score. Now, this is based on things like the game crashing, poor graphical performance, poor performance in general, and the game is 99 Australian dollars, so it's not exactly cheap. Let's dive in and have a look at the nuts and bolts of this and see if we can actually get it running well or passable on an average gaming PC, and see if it's actually worth your money, especially if you're new to the franchise and new to PC gaming in general. You don't want this to be your first experience with PC gaming and have it sour the experience for you. So let's see if we can get it running well. Before we get started, we'll be aiming to get this game running at a 1080p 60 frames per second, which is basically industry standard at this point. Now, one thing that I did notice when having a look at the minimum system requirements for this game, it did say that on the minimum hardware spec to be running at 720p and 30 frames per second. To me, that's pretty insane, because that's the kind of fidelity you'd be expecting out of an older console, an older video game console. So not too confident, but let's see where we can get going. Let's jump into the display options here. And as you can see, this game actually has the option for AMD FSR2. This is a good thing. This could actually help this game run better on lower spec hardware. So we'll leave that on for the moment. We'll leave that on quality and see what kind of visual fidelity that we lose, because bear in mind with what AMD FSR does is it takes a lower resolution, as you can see, 1280 by 720p, and it upscales it to 1080p using an algorithm. Now, if I change that to balanced, you see that resolution change there to 1136 by 640. Even lower, we got 960 by 544, and if we go on ultra low performance there, we get 640 by 380p. That's quite a low resolution to be upscaling, so I can't imagine that would look very good. It would probably make it look quite blurry around the edges of everything, and just basically make it look like you're looking through Vaseline covered on your screen there. But so we'll leave it on quality settings to begin with, and while these shaders are compiling here, as you can see, it's building the shaders, it's at 7%. We'll have a look through the other graphic options and see if we can't get it down from using over the amount of VRAM that our particular graphics card has to a more reasonable level. After having a poke around in the graphics settings, I found that not many things actually change the VRAM usage. I think that may be a bug at this current point in time, but by setting everything on low, I was able to get the VRAM usage below the actual maximum VRAM usage of our graphics card that we've got in here, which is a 1660. That may change though, that may be patched, and changing these various settings in here might actually have a effect on that VRAM usage. If we have a play around with these graphics presets and we change that up to medium, as you can see, it jumps, the VRAM usage jumps quite high there, even higher on high, and on ultra it goes right into the red, which is definitely not ideal for our little card. It probably will have a hissy fit. So we'll leave that on low for now and then jump in the game and see how it goes. As you can see though, we're still building those shaders, so this could take a while. Several hours later, 2 reinstalls, multiple file verifications, and many troubleshooting steps later, we actually got the game running, so hooray for us. And straight away, it's not looking very good for our hero. As we move around this opening scene, we see a lot of camera shaking as we pan our camera about. The game is hitching in the background and it just feels generally uneven, which sort of belies the frame rate a little bit because we are on that sort of around 45, 46 average frames per second, and our 1% lows and 0.1% lows are kind of hanging around that 20 FPS. So it's a bit of a weird experience because while the frame rate is saying X, the game feels like Y. So we're gonna nip this in the bud straight away and then move on to our FSR settings and see if we can get an improvement. Replaying the same scene now with the quality preset on FSR, there is a marginal improvement, but not much. The game still feels generally hitchy around the edges and the camera is not smooth as you're panning and looking around. The 1% lows and 0.1% lows still hovering around the same area, and the average FPS is still around that 45 mark there. It really doesn't at this stage look like we're going to get much of a gain out of FSR, at least on the higher settings. So let's now drop down to the lower preset and see what we get with that. Next batter up to the plate was the balance preset, and I was hoping that this would be where we netted some real improvements. Unfortunately though, the improvement over the quality preset was marginal. This also rang true for our performance and ultra performance presets, which was quite frankly disappointing. Paying full price for a AAA game, you would be expecting at least a playable experience, considering that we have had some great examples of this recently. The Resident Evil 4 remake springs to mind. That ran and looked a lot better on our hardware. I believe that Sony has really dropped the ball here. The TV series has just wrapped up and this has just launched on PC. But unfortunately, the only way for us to get a halfway playable experience, and yep, you guessed it, was at 720p and low settings. If you're brand new to gaming off the back of the recent TV series, I want you to know that not all games are like this. This is a particularly egregious example of bad optimization. At the end of recording this video, nearly 6,000 people have went on Steam to vent their frustrations. My advice on this one would be to wait. Hopefully we see some patches launched in the coming weeks to fix the numerous issues I've seen popping up on Reddit and YouTube. But until then, maybe go play Resident Evil 4. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was educational. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like and subscribe. That really helps me out, and I'll see you at the next one. Catch you later, everyone. Thanks a lot.